It is The Nightmare Before Christmas's 30th anniversary.
And they're doing a big show at the El Capitan Theater, and we're building a bunch of sets and decor items for the show.
This is part 2.
So last time we covered making a bunch of things for the 4D show.
I 40.
Oh, 4D.
4 dimension.
Into the 4th dimension. So we made the vampire teddy bear.
The baby.
And carved a bunch of styrofoam set pieces, made some ornaments, made some trees, transformed some store-bought skulls into Tim Burton skulls. This week we're starting with the big cats that are on the columns in front of Jack's house. First thing I did, I printed it out scale so that I had a template. The second thing I did, absolutely wrong, turns out it was wrong, but I sculpted the heads out of epoxy sculpt because the foam clay that we had ordered was stuck and was shipping late. So we didn't have it and I needed to start because we only had a week to make these all of the things. So I started with epoxy sculpt and this turned out to be just a little bit too heavy. They're very thin, they're not super big, so I thought it would be fine, but it turned out that they were just that little bit too heavy because it was epoxy and not the foam clay. So I ended up having to reinforce the neck 3 times before they were happy little kitties. All of the rest of my choices were brilliant and good. It was just that first choice that was bad. So this is the foam clay. It's all stringy and weird, but it's really lightweight when it dries. So it was perfect for this, just to make these kitties not super heavy. Everything for Nightmare Before Christmas is kind of rough and ready and lumpy. It was such a joy to work on this project because the week before I had made those props for a South Park exhibit and everything had to be flawlessly smooth. And I was priming and sanding and priming and sanding and priming and sanding. And then the one piece, I dropped it on the last coat and I ended up having to start over with the priming and sanding and I just wanted to scream. And then we were doing Nightmare and I was like, thank you, Tim Burton, for this aesthetic where everything has the textures.
The texture is so cool and fun.
So even after I made the lumpy sculpting, I added even more texture with some hot glue and I used a silicone spatula to spread it around so it didn't look like hot glue so much. Then they got painted and dry brushed and stuck on top of their columns, and they're beautiful boys. And so the next thing we made was this gate. So I drew it in Adobe Illustrator so I'd have vectors so that I've got all of these points that the computer would recognize because we had this cut on a CNC. So this is our friend CNC and it's a computer controlled router. So it'll follow all the little ones and zeros and cut in the path that I drew. But unfortunately, as it's cutting, it leaves these little like roundy bits because the bit is round itself. So Ty came in with her glorious knife skills.
I just kind of was carving along 2 smooth edges,
Adding the glorious texture.
sharpening the roundy bits
The
that were
roundy
left.
points. Yeah.
It was pretty fun. I got to
Use your whittling skills. It was really funny because the guys at the shop were like, oh, somebody's got to do the gate. And I'm like, don't worry, Ty will be here over the weekend. She's got skills. One of the other things that I had to do was all of the graphics that went along with all of the pieces we built. So we did the trees for the holiday forest. Those are in the last video. And this is the backdrop that went behind the trees. And it turns out that it's really difficult to find good images of Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. This is Finkelstein's observatory and it was very low resolution. And so I had to redraw Finkelstein's laboratory and I had to redraw the forest here to give it a lot more texture and clarity so that it could get blown up to 10 feet wide and not look really, really dumb. Jack's house, we didn't actually have to redraw because they had the model in archives and they photographed the model and sent me the high resolution images of it. So that was awesome.
And then we added a bunch of UV paint for Oogie Boogie scene, and it's super cool.
So we were using wildfire paint. We had wildfire invisible UV paint, both white and clear. The clear isn't as bright, but we used it on the metallic columns in front of Finkelstein's house. Wherever we had white highlights already, we could use the white, which was brighter. You can buy it in lots of different colors. Like we had red and blue and green and orange and yellow. It's white under regular light, and then when you put it under a black light, it's the color. So it looked very much like the Oogie Boogie scene.
It is so cool.
Sam got to do quite a bit of the UV painting. Painted your hand, as you always have. Even when you were a tiny teeny, you always painted your hand. So I even painted on the graphics that we used for Jack's house and for the observatory, so that during the Oogie Boogie scene they'd pop.
Oh, sure.
You know, and your teeth, your teeth were glowing. It's because you brush them so well.
Black light paint is fun.
Yeah, I know. You were really excited to do the black light paint. And you got to do the hill under the observatory. That was all you. There was a lot of texture sculpted into the mountain. So you were able to just paint the paint on a sponge and then wipe it on, and it would hit only the high parts. And it looks so cool. So since we were doing all of these big projects for Nightmare Before Christmas at the LCAP and all these decorations, but we don't get to keep any of them, we wanted to do a project that we could do at home and keep at home. So we took inspiration from our Christmas lights that we did years ago, where we colored ping pong balls. We do the colors with alcohol markers, and then the light will shine through and the color shines through. And then we did the outlines with Posca pens, which are acrylic paint markers. And that way, those were opaque, so the light wouldn't shine through. So even when they're lit up, you still get the patterns. And we had a bunch of different kinds of things. We did jack faces and spider webs and little pumpkins. And I did some things for Oogie Boogie's lair. The first thing you have to do is poke the holes into the ping pong balls. And for this, I used a soldering pencil, which is, I wouldn't say it's the safest thing, but it's very effective. If you've got a respirator to wear so that the fumes don't get you, then it's not too bad. But yeah, it's super stinky, so you gotta have a respirator and do it outside. But it works really well. You'll notice that one of Ty's hands doesn't have the skeletal glove, and that's because she was wearing a wrist brace because she's injured, so she didn't do a ton of these, but she did the best of the jacks. You're just good at line art, my dear.
Over the weekend, we went to our little cousin's birthday party, and there was a bounce house, and feral 5 to 8-year-olds plus bounce house plus teenager as kind of a
target
authority figure
/ target
makes chaos. And in the midst of the chaos, I screwed up my wrist.
That's
While
perfect.
throwing kids.
Called out by your little sister.
She's not wrong.
The truth revealed. This is one of the pumpkins. So I did stripes in a darker color and then filled in with a lighter color. And since they're alcohol markers, they dissolve and they can blend. So it kind of give it a nice pumpkin shape. And then I went back over the darker with the dark again to re-emphasize. And then we put faces on them.
The jack-o'-lantern things are actually reverse jack-o'-lanterns, because the face is the part that doesn't glow, and then all the rest is the part that does glow.
Yeah, when they're on.
And it's like reversed.
And I did some Oogie Boogie themed ones that were bugs and burlap. These turned out really cute. And I used a clear blender to kind of soften up the harsh lines and blend the color onto the white parts, which I think ended up looking a lot like burlap. It was very effective and very simple. I appreciate things that are effective and simple. is because they look like ornaments when they're not lit up, and then when they're lit up, they look like lights. I feel like they're super duper mega awesome. This time they had that little hook for the light bulb. There was like a hook on the side of each thing, and I found if I shoved the ball on that part first, then it would hold it on, and I didn't have to do anything else.
It's my birthday right now.
Actually today,
Yeah. But
as we're recording.
yeah, as we're doing this voiceover right now, I just turned 10. Today is my birthday. Yeah.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday!
And so on Sunday, we went to the Nightmare Before Christmas thing that we were just making this stuff for. Me and my friend Marnie went and actually saw the thing, and it was super cool. And we took a bunch of pictures in front of all the cool things.
Yeah, they had some of the sets from the actual movie.
Yeah, it was so cool.
That right there is my view from behind that model because I was touching up the trees behind it. So I could actually see the front of Jack's house from where I was standing. There's our giant snake.
Mm-hmm.
I find it really funny going to shows that we've worked for.
Yeah.
Because I can just look around and say, I helped with that. I helped with that. That was in my living room. That was also in the living room. That was in the living room for like a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that make it more fun to see?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
When Sama was 3, there was a whole year where the only thing she would watch was The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Over and over and over again. Your uncle made you a Jack Skellington cake for your birthday. You were a super fan.
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty common. 3-year-olds love this movie.
It was nice seeing it big and in 3D so you could see all the detail that went into characters and the models and stuff.
I was shocked how different it was from the hundreds of times that we watched it when Sam was little and was obsessed.
And then we saw the big organ thing. That was
At the
super
beginning
cool.
of the show, there was an organist who played a bunch of music as people were coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's a 100-year-old organ. There's 3,000 pipes in the walls. The longest one's over 30 feet long. And then during the show, there's all the effects on all of our sets and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which was really fun to see.
It's so glowy.
Yeah, that's Oogie Boogie.
At the end of the show, when Santa brings the snow to Halloween Town, there's cannons that
Confetti
shoot
cannons.
confetti.
They just shot it out consistently and a steady flow of it.
Confetti leaf blower.
Leaf blower, yeah.
And it was super fun.
It was actually snow-shaped confetti.
And we collected a bunch of snowflakes, and then we would take a big handful in our hands and throw it up in the air. And it was super fun.
And then they had to clean up the leaf blower snow with actual leaf blowers.
Snowflake confetti. I wanna see it in motion in 3D.